This is my grandfather Walter, and he likes to read Reddit stories.
My sister and I had our first child about 1 year apart. For our entire lives, my parents always preached equals and always explicitly stated there is no favourite. And growing up it felt this way. If my sister got a day at the mall with friends, my parents let me have a friend over for a sleepover. If I got a new baseball glove, sister got a new set of nail polish. Now, my niece was born first and seemed to set the pace. Our schedule and child seemed like an afterthought. For example, before my son was born, everything was done around my niece's nap schedule. Picnics, get-togethers, whatever was always planned around her naps. However, now that my son is born, it's still on my niece's schedule. My sister plays dumb, like she doesn't notice everything is bent around her family's whim. Today they are hosting a pool party. My niece wakes up from naps around 5 p.m. and goes to bed late. My son naps from 1 p.m. and goes to bed early. My parents scheduled everything to be at 5:30 at night. Our bedtime routine starts at 7 p.m. I asked why they can't start at noon or 2 p.m. and let my sister's family just stay later and have us overlap for an hour at 5:30 to 6:30. They laugh it off and ignore our request. Because of this, I told them it's too late and we won't be coming, and they're all shocked and annoyed. Why can't you let him go to bed late? Well, because we wake up early and his daycare starts at 8 a.m. We need to do breakfast and get ready early. On top of this, we never made comments about our niece's naps. We know it's important for kids and babies to nap. However, whenever we mention our son's nap, they've had snippy or sarcastic responses. It's as if our son's naps are always an issue, but my niece's naps are not the problem. For example, we got a lake house this past summer with everyone. My sister made comments that we can't do anything because of nephew's naps, yet her daughter naps literally the same amount of time later. At night we got ignorant comments about how we have to be quiet to not interrupt the prince-nephew's sleep, but literally at 8 a.m. they are shushing us because their daughter sleeps in late, looking at their 14-month-old nephew and grandson as if he understands not to make noise. Meanwhile, the night prior, they were practically encouraging my niece to shriek and yell because she was having fun on vacation. So if my niece loves Toy Story, and everything the grandparents buy is Toy Story themed. My son doesn't get screen time. He likes cars, balls, flowers, nature, animals, etc. Literally anything but everything they buy is Toy Story. In my parents' mind, they're treating them as equals, but there is zero thought into buying anything my son actually likes. Now he's young and doesn't care, but it's a subtle detail we seem to notice. I should also add, my parents babysit my niece excessively. Every other weekend, my sister is ditching her so her and my brother-in-law can go into the city to binge drink, concerts, trips away, etc. My parents' schedule is jam-packed with about 2-3 weekends every single month watching my niece. My wife and I were going to go to her uncle's funeral last month, but my sister had claimed my parents already so they could go out with friends on their boat. Again, this was a contentious point where we pay for childcare, and my sister overutilises my parents to save money despite both families being in similar income brackets, and unlike any respectful adults, they did not offer to reschedule. And my parents can't handle both kids overnight, mainly because my father does nothing and my mother is run down with just my niece. All of these small things add up to feel like we are being penalised, and an afterthought. A single issue wouldn't be a big deal, but we can't help but feel we're second in the pecking order, so we are now limiting my parents' time with their grandson. We don't want to compete if my parents are claiming a favourite. I also wonder if my parents are upset about our decision to use daycare. Beyond the fact we don't like them, just my mum, watching both kids all the time, we like the idea of our son getting socialisation with many kids, and not just our niece. Also, our niece is in her terrible 2S, where she's jealous and doesn't share. She pushes our son out of the way, takes toys, and cries when my parents hold him, and they literally bend to her will whenever she cries. From our experience, we are worried our son would get secondary care behind our niece if they had to babysit both. TLDR, declining a pool party with my parents and going to limit the amount of time they get with our son because tons of small microaggressions feels like it adds up to preferred treatment of our niece. Now, for the next story. My best friend Chris and I are both expecting our first babies with our wives. My wife is 36-ish weeks, and I believe Chris's wife, Polly, is somewhere around 28 weeks. Chris and I are very different in how we treat our wives and their pregnancies. Like Chris still has Polly do a lot, whereas I will take the weight off my wife in literally any single possible way that I can. Even small things. mainly because I feel utterly useless and I don't want my wife straining herself to do things I could easily do myself while she is growing my baby and uncomfortable anyway. But I guess I messed up the other day, so Chris and Polly invited us out on their boat to go swimming and fishing. My wife was a bit uncomfortable because she's getting close to her due date and is just afraid of going into early labour, so her anxiety is a bit heavier than usual. Well, Chris kept asking Polly to get up and do things for him, and I would go right behind her and be like, "No, sit down, I've got it," and essentially did the same thing I would do with my own wife. Well, there's a store along the lake that we stopped off at so I could grab some beers, and Polly asked me to grab her a few things, so I did. A mixture of both snacks and drinks, like 4-5 items. When I got back to the boat, my wife looked in the bag I got and was immediately pissed off and didn't talk to anyone for easily an hour. I had no idea why she was upset, so when we stopped off and Chris and Polly jumped in to swim, I asked what was wrong, and she's like, "Pretty freaking pathetic that you get her literally everything she asked for, and you couldn't even get me the one thing I asked for." I told her I didn't hear her ask for anything, and she said, "Yeah, because you were so busy doting on someone else's pregnant wife that you couldn't pay attention to what your own wife was saying." I truly didn't hear her, but then Chris gets back on the boat a bit later and looks at my wife and says, "Where's your drink?" And my wife just glared at me. So apparently my buddy heard my wife but I didn't, which of course just adds fuel to my wife's anger because it looks really bad. I was right beside my wife and Chris was on the other side of the boat, so I should have heard her. Later on in the night, she told me that she's never been so uncomfortable in her life because Polly and Chris both noticed that I didn't get my wife the one thing she asked for after getting Polly everything she asked for, so it embarrassed her, and that she's not comfortable with me doting on Chris's wife at all, and that she doesn't want to hang out with them for a while because she's now insecure over this. I was just trying to be nice. Am I the idiot? Now, here are the comments. Comment 1. It was an honest mistake. But the takeaway here is that if you were going to be solicitous of your friend's wife, you should have been aware enough to be equally solicitous of your own wife. You and your wife need to talk this out. She needs to understand your motives here, which were admirable. You were just trying to be kind, and this wasn't a competition to see which wife would get the most attention. But if you are smart, you won't even hint that you think that maybe your wife is being overly sensitive here or any nonsense like that. Comment 2. Not the idiot, honest mistake. I've come to realize what works best for me is to one ask. Then, if they say they want something, have them text it to you. I am super forgetful. If they say nothing while you're at the store, get her something anyway, lol. Usually always helps and gets you some brownie points. Comment 3. You're the idiot. You were so busy bending over backwards for your friend's wife that you ignored your own wife. You really couldn't be bothered to ask her if she wanted anything when you jumped up repeatedly to get stuff for your friend's wife. Really? Good luck trying to fix this. Now for the next story. This is going to be a bit long, so please be patient. My husband and I have 6 children between us. I have 2 kids that I birthed and 4 kids that I consider bonus kids. All of the kids are adults now, and my husband and I try to still be there when our kids need us, and for our grandchildren. My stepdaughter, we will call her Shannon, has been divorced now for about a year, and is in a relationship with someone new for about as long. We will call him Dave. Dave moved in with Shannon almost from the beginning. This was the start of her unravelling. We used to see our grandchildren almost every week, but because of a falling out we had with Dave and expressing our concerns about him being on probation for threatening his ex-wife and now having 2 restraining orders against him. Shannon won't let us see the kids now because she thinks we don't want her to be happy. We still have a great relationship with our former son-in-law, so we have seen them a few times when he brought them to visit. The children's behaviour has changed dramatically. Shannon leaves the kids home alone. The oldest is only 10. Our grandson has been suspended for fighting. He hates, his words, not mine, the boyfriend, and wants him to leave. They have lost their rooms and bedroom furniture to make room for Dave's kids. This is an important piece of information. Shannon and Dave like to have parties at the house and invite Dave's family over. They both use marijuana recreationally, and Shannon got sick at one of the parties from taking gummies and Valium. Our grandson told us that his sister ate Mummy's special brownies. The kids now share a room in the downstairs of the house because Dave's kids are in their old rooms. Shannon's stepdad had to buy them beds because Shannon had sold their other beds. My granddaughter locks the room door when she goes to bed at night, which to me is a huge red flag. Shannon and Dave did a huge birthday party for Dave's son, but Shannon said my grandson wasn't having a party because they didn't have the money for it. This would now be the second year in a row that she didn't do anything for his birthday, because the year before she left for the beach the day of his party and she celebrated her birthday at the beach. As irritating as all of the above is, I finally reported her when her brother told us Dave's sister was sexually assaulted by one of her family members at Shannon's house at a party last month. That was the last straw. I later found out that Shannon's stepdad was at her house when social services showed up because he was planning to tell her he was going to report her if she didn't get her act together. Shannon is understandably furious and is now threatening to cut her brother Alex and sister-in-law off, as well as us, because she said they had to be the ones that we got the information from. She's planning to confront us and then cut us all off. I feel bad that Alex and his family are in the middle of this, but I think it was the right decision. So, am I the idiot for calling social services and not going to Shannon first? Update. First, thank you all for your comments, suggestions and support. I didn't expect this to take off like it has, so I really appreciate the responses. We are definitely going to continue working with the children's father. We spent some time with the children today, and after waiting for their mother almost an hour, my granddaughter said my mum has abandoned me. It broke my heart and made it even more clear something needs to change with the custody. Now, here are the comments. Comment 1. The best thing my maternal grandmother did for me and my siblings was report our birth parents for abusing my 2 older siblings severely. My older siblings got a lot of the help they needed and a good family, and my younger sibling and I were able to be taken right from the hospital and allowed to be adopted by a wonderful mother. You absolutely have done the right thing calling. Fingers crossed CPS does the right thing and protects those children. Comment 2. Former son-in-law needs to have custody changed. I would think the family he is staying with would figure out a solution to have the kids live with them if they knew the situation. Comment 3. Go a step deeper and help your ex-son-in-law get custody of those kids. CPS is the bare minimum. Protect those children by helping them get into a healthy environment. Now for the next story. My partner and I were on a family trip for Labor Day. We went to his hometown, not too far from where we live. We rented a hotel and we have a 2-year-old. Obviously travelling and existing with a 2-year-old isn't always the most enjoyable. My 2-year-old also got a small cold, which I did too. It was delayed by maybe a day or so. My partner comes from a trashy family, and there is always a lot of drama and stress when my partner sees them. My partner doesn't carry stress well. He is on edge with me and our son and whoever else around him. On the last day of our trip, he asked to work out. I just stared at him blankly, and he said, "Never mind, I'm just going to work out." I finally said, "Well, we're on a family trip." He said he didn't know why I had a problem with him working out. Well, we're trapped in a hotel room, my son is sick, and I am now sick too. The last thing I want is my partner leaving for an hour because he fails to self-regulate himself in other ways, where he is still present for our child and I, we're at such a standstill. I think he's not putting our family first, and he feels I'm being controlling. The reason why my partner has to work out is for anxiety ADHD. He needs the dopamine hit to feel in control. To me, a small hit of dopamine isn't being in control. It's just a quick high. I don't know, y'all. Am I being an idiot? Now here are the comments. Comment 1. You're definitely TR and controlling as hell. Also, the way you minimize and condemn his method of self-regulation is really gross. When you have ADHD, that dopamine isn't just to feel in control. It's about getting your dopamine to a baseline that isn't deficient so that you can function like a normal human being. Be thankful he has healthy ways of managing. Comment 2. You're the idiot. An hour? Seriously? 1 hour. It's not like he's leaving the 2 of you alone with his family for most of a day. Just hang out in your room and watch a cartoon or something with your kid for an hour. Ish. Comment 3. He self-regulates by going to the gym, not cheating drugs or alcohol. Maybe think that this is best for him to step away for a second. And yes, you have the option to too if you ask. You're the idiot. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.